Looking at this Iran with possibly getting nuclear weapons, and I did mention before, in their particular case, with all the crude oil they have and they have an extremely large natural gas reserves that'll last them 100 years, and having an outdated electrical infrastructure that wastes electricity, to do a nuclear program is, and put up with all these sanctions and everything that they have to been going against them for years. Still, they've been forging ahead with the nuclear program. It's quite obvious that they're trying to get nuclear warheads and nuclear weapons grade material. And I did point out before about the thorium reactors that China and India is using. So, you can totally avoid the issue. But I think this time, if it doesn't happen, like in other words, there's supposed to be a window of opportunity to attack Iran before the winter. If it doesn't happen soon, it's going to happen, I'd say, before, first half, sometime in the first half of 2012. I don't think this is going to be put off too much longer. And I know, like Russia, during the time of the 8 years long war between Iraq and Iran, actually Russia and the United States both supported Iraq. I know Putin is a big expert on Iran, and part of the deal is not just the nuclear weapons. Just be honest with yourself and think, this energy they're getting from this nuclear reactor is very small compared to what they have in natural gas. And they'd be the last country in the world to run out of fuel. They don't need nuclear energy. So they are pursuing nuclear weapons. Whether you think the evidence is trumped up or not, they are for other reasons. But Russia is also kind of working with Iran, because Iran's whole strategy is to attack the U.S. dollar itself. They will not, for all their oil trade, they will not accept any U.S. dollars at all. And one of the things that really props up the U.S. dollar is the OPEC agreement that was made, I think, in 1973 or whatever, with Nixon. And I forgot the players, but there's basically OPEC basically trades in U.S. dollars, and they invest in dollar-denominated financial instruments. They buy our debt. In the case of Iran, they're not doing that. So that's the main reason they're, an enemy too, besides that. Now, Russia would love to establish the ruble as the world reserve currency. And, they're using Iran for that purposes also. So, but to tell you the truth, you look at Zhirinovsky in Russia. I know the guy's pretty crazy and radical. Sometimes I see him on that speech where he talked about he'll blow up a whole continent because we're Russia, But he does say something that's fairly true in one way. There's basically 4 power centers on the earth, the main ones. It is the United States, European Union, Russia, and China. Despite the fact that there's other strong nations in the world, those are really the 4 main power centers, and they're in competition with each other. So what could happen if Iran is attacked? Well, obviously what's going to happen is the crude oil is going to go up a lot. That will hurt the European Union more than anybody. It will not hurt Russia so much, because what would happen in the case of Russia? First off, they're the #1 oil producer in the world, right? Now, in the case of China, they're they get a lot of oil imports too, and they're coming on very strong as a a country that uses crude oil a lot. They're second to the United States, even though they got a lot more people. Their oil consumption is about 10 million barrels a day, whereas our U.S. is 20 million barrels a day. But they get 20% of their imports from Saudi Arabia, 11% or 11.5% from Iran, and they get 7.5% from Russia. So what could happen in a war with Iran? It would cut off a lot of Iranian oil, I assume. Even if this, if say the war would spread, it would cut off Iranian oil, Iran would attack Saudi Arabia, it would cut off Saudi oil too. Everything going through the Straits of Hormuz. So what would happen? Russia would benefit. And I'm just thinking how, to tell you the truth, the people behind the scenes, they look at the numbers. They don't look at anything else. And Russia would benefit. They would be selling a lot more oil to China. In the case of the United States, we don't get that much, we don't get any oil from Iran, and we don't actually get a lot of our imported oil from OPEC as much as people think. We are a large producer of domestic oil. We are a large producer, but we're such a large consumer, we wind up importing about half our oil needs. Canada supplies 25% of our imports, Mexico 13%. Now Saudi provides 14%. That supply would be greatly diminished. Nigeria, Venezuela 10%, 11%. And what could happen though, and I looked at what T. Boone Pickens said, we do have a large amount of natural gas in this country, just like Russia has a hell of a lot of natural gas too. We also have technology to get the natural gas out of the ground better than we had before. T. Boone Pickens, the oil baron, said, and it's something we should have done a long time ago, but it can be done very rapidly. For instance, if we took the 18-wheel trucker fleet that transports a lot of the goods across the United States, from the ports to the distribution centers and all this type of stuff, and they were converted to run to natural gas, and it is a very, very simple conversion. Most of the infrastructure is actually there in a way because all natural gas is piped everywhere. That alone, if the trucker fleet was on natural gas, that alone, the interstate trucker fleet, the large trucks, that alone would give us enough energy use from natural gas that we can totally alleviate all the OPEC oil we get, which is Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, Venezuela, Iraq. I think I don't know if Angola's in there too, but I think they're part of OPEC too, possibly. So we'd eliminate all OPEC oil, and we'd still be importing from Canada, which is going to be actually producing more oil, and Mexico. So we could basically be practically energy independent. So, but it would drive up the cost of crude oil a great deal in the long run, in a short run. But what would happen a little from that is that would actually hurt China a great deal. Now China may not mind so much that Iran is attacked. People are thinking that they're going to, you know why? They might come out with some rhetoric, but after Iraq was attacked, what happened with those oil fields? Chinese companies moved in. I'm just talking about the numbers. I'm talking about business, okay? The Chinese companies moved in. They're the biggest players in this Iraq. And I know the American companies are in there because they're partnered with Chinese companies. So the Chinese rhetoric might be, oh, don't attack Iran, that's terrible, we condemn it. And they'll be thinking, oil, thank you. They'd love to have their companies in here pumping this oil with their technology, combined with, and Russia just going to be thinking, oh, we could sell more oil to China, you know, now that they got cut off supplies in Iran and Saudi, but they'll be condemning the United States. But you know what? The way things work, as long as their pockets are lined, they're not going to act against the United States. It's always a fight over resources or over money. It's not over ideology. You know, I tell you, Russia and China don't care about Iran. This is where Iran is making a major mistake. You know, we shouldn't have went after Gaddafi, you know, and I think Gaddafi was a pretty good guy. I think that was a bad thing the Western leaders did, going after this country. They should have made him try to abandon that golden dinar in some other fashion, and everything would have been fine. But he didn't go that way. But I do think they're going to attack Iran, and it's not going to be the big problem people think possibly. I know the oil price is going to go up, but the way that's going to actually work out for the West too, it's going to end globalization. Because, say for instance, and this is why I think the people in the West are going to do it. Our people, they're going to stop China from basically. It's going to cut down their globalization type economy. They get products from South America, for instance, and they ship them over. Raw materials. They ship them over to China. They make something out of it. They sell it to the European Union and they sell it to the United States. It gets shipped across the world again. Well, if the oil prices are $200 a barrel, guess what? It's going to make it a lot more economically feasible to make products locally in the United States. So in effect, it could bring back manufacturing. So, I think the two countries that are going to, the two areas that are going to benefit from this is the United States and Russia. It's not going to be like a real nice benefit, but let me put it this way: they're going to be the ones that are going to be the least hurt. And the European Union and China is the ones that are going to have to be paying the most. But China is probably like they say, like I said, they'll look at Iran just the way they looked at Iraq. The companies will move in there after it's taken over. So I don't know. I think Iran is playing it very stupid, but the American people don't realize what's going on behind the scenes. I could say more, but I think that's all I'm going to say.